We are poor, not Caucasian people. That's the title of the video. That's real simple. We are poor, not Caucasian people. The reason I'm saying that is because I was talking to a brother probably about, I'm going to say maybe a couple of weeks ago. And I was in a discussion with him and I was talking about that. I said, I was trying to break down the curses of Deuteronomy chapter 28. According to the Bible, when you look at the Caucasian people as a whole, they are rich as a whole. Notice I didn't say collectively. Collectively means you to reverse that. I would say yes, they are collectively, but as far as controlling the world, Caucasian, everybody knows under the sound of my voice, everybody knows that Caucasian people control the world. Even the most rich, uh, craziest person ever knows that Caucasian people are not poor. That's right. Caucasian people are the ones that are not poor. As a whole, they're not. The reason I say they control all of this. The white man control every bit of this. Everybody knows that. All our people know that. They controls that. Now, when you look at Deuteronomy 28, God is not talking about everybody when he's talking about people who are poor and people who are at the bottom and people who are rich. When people try to say we're all equal, that is a lie. We're not all equal. Everybody's not equal. You read many places in Genesis and Revelation, it shows and proves that we're not all equal. Then they want to say God is all love. I can prove that. I can debunk all of that. You can take simple scriptures such as Luke, I think it's Luke 3, where it talks about the sons of Adam or the sons of God, and it talks about Esau, the children of Edom. Everybody is not a child of God on this earth, just like everybody on the earth is not righteous. Just like when it rains, it doesn't rain every damn well. You see what I'm saying? It rains in certain spots, and some rain spots it don't touch rain. Now, when we was a child, we actually believed in this dream thing called, okay, if it rained here, it rained all over the world. It doesn't rain all over the world if it's raining here. You see what I'm saying? Like some parts of right now, we over here in Louisiana, over here, over there in Russia or China, it may be 7 o'clock in the morning. You see what I'm saying? So you have to get that we have to get that out of our heads that God loves everybody. Everybody is not at the top. And the main people that are not at the top is so-called black, Hispanic, and Native American people are not at the top. We got to go to the other nation when it comes to these places like this. The white man owns all of this. Everybody knows that. Even the people that are hard-headed, they know that the so-called white man owns every bit of this stuff. Everything you want to get, even if you get on this highway and drive a car, you got to get permission from the white man to do all of that. If you don't have permission from the so-called white man to do that, you cannot get on these highways and drive. So people need to stop playing with words. You see what I'm saying? People need to stop playing with words. You see what I'm saying? And when you ask people questions like, things like, well, who lives in a single parent household? Who is struggling the most in this world, right? When you ask them who is struggling more in this world, you know what they're gonna tell you? I said, do you see what I asked the dude this in last week? I say, what nation of people is at home with a single parent, lives in a single parent house? Do you see a white boy living in a single parent household and this and that and the third? Do you know what he told me? He told me, yes, they do, they got him. And I'm like, okay, I ain't gonna be too hard. I'm not gonna be hard on them at all because Some people just living in a dream world to where they don't know. You see what I'm saying? They don't know these things, I'm not gonna come actually that hard on our people because I know we've been dropped down and we lived in a society where we've been lied to on every level of everything. You see what I'm saying? We've been lied to. You know what I mean? They lied to the so-called black people about the history, everything. Everything that you see is basically painted as lies. But most people, what I'm saying, they gonna they consider it as nothing. You know what I mean? When you look at who controls the world, everybody knows. Don't play games. The so-called white man owns everything. If you think I'm playing, or if you think you're free in this world, get your tail. Let us get our ass out there on the highway and drive a damn car with no driver's license, and you'll see what exactly what's gonna happen. Matter of fact, they probably, if you got a car sitting up, they are. I heard they had a lady, elder lady, just told me last night, and something I didn't know, but it didn't surprise me, is that even if you got a car and you got a license tag, like that license tag on the back of that car, if you got a license tag on the back of that car, guess what? They are going to, if you leave that on there and you don't turn that license plate in, every day you keep that license tag on that car and you don't return it in to the license tag company, guess what they do? A bill, a bill, a bill, a bill, a bill, a bill. That's what they do. I never owned a car and I understand that. You own a car and you don't understand that? You living in a white society, you living in a so-called white man's world, they're gonna look at you like, hey, you living in my world. The so-called white man, they're gonna look at you like, you living in my world, nigga. That's how they look at it. I tell you what to do, even with your car. You ain't gonna get out here on a white man's highway and drive a damn car, and you think he ain't your enemy. Only an enemy would tell you, look, you can't drive out here with no driver's license. But they'll tell you something like, oh, it's for safety and this and that and third and all that kind of stuff. No, they're not gonna look at it like that because guess what? If they prove not to be the enemy or whatever, then guess what? The so-called African American, Latino, Black, Native American people, communities, and all of these people that live in these different parts of the world who are at the bottom, like Mexican, so-called Mexican, so-called Jamaicans, so-called Haitian, so-called Creole, so-called Costa Rican, so-called all of these people that carry these different bywords. The so-called white man know that he is they control. You go all over the world, they control everything. You can't get out here and drive on the highway at all, just like I said, without a damn driver's license. You can't do that. But everybody want to holler we're free, and not all so-called white people are like that. Well, if not all white people are like that, then tell me, why is it that a lot of our African American people, black men and women, and Latino Native Americans are still at the bottom and still in these slums and ghettos and neighborhoods? Huh? Why? Why are they still in the neighborhood? You tell me that. Why are they still in these neighborhoods? Yeah, you tell me that. Why are they still in these neighborhoods? Why are we still in these neighborhoods? Have they anybody came and rescued us out of the neighborhood? It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday, right? I mean, look, we still here. It's 2000. It's so-called 2023, right? Okay, we still in the same shape that we was back in 2004. That's another strike. In the early 2000s, did they go into our community? Do you see the so-called police officers? Do you see the so-called government demanding the so-called white man, the police forces to go in our neighborhood and put us in big old mansions and stuff? Do we have big mansions built in for so-called people of color, black people? so-called Hispanic, Native Americans, and so-called labor, the people, the Costa Ricans, so-called whoever you want to. That's what I'm gonna say. Those are bywords and names anyway that they put on you, right? So when people come in, when I asked this brother, I said, "What white boy do you know? Do you see more than likely? Because it ain't gonna happen." Because they have the white man, the white so-called white woman, they have systems in places. They have all of the resources to where they can educate their children, even if their children are dumb as hell. They can go and get that white boy and that white girl education and make sure they know how to read, write, spell, and do all of that shit. They know how to. They have the opportunity of getting the what they call. They created what was called for them a free what you call that, uh a free thing that you go, what you call those things you go to college, a free scholarship, all of those different things. That's what they put in place. And something told me is to do this video. Something told me to do this video because it was on my mind and I was thinking about it. You see what I'm saying? And we hate each other. We have been programmed and we have been conditioned is to hate each other. We have, because of the Europeans. They set a system of hatred against us. So we have been programmed. That we developed that same hatred for each other by them coming into place in 1492. Christopher Columbus went all over the world and conquered everybody, conquered everything and stuff like that. But people want to say that you free. Okay, get out of line. What is your definition of being free? Because last I checked, a lot of our people still been put in the jail system. When I look at things like that, I think that's what gives me a sense of hope to let me know it's a possibility that I could be a Jew. I'm not saying I am. I'm just saying it just like this, just for the sake of context, because I don't want to sit up here and exalt myself. You see what I'm saying? Because the Bible tells you, he says, I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. I don't go around calling myself a Jew. Only thing I can say is that uh, when it comes to living in certain conditions, living in certain neighborhoods, living a certain way, living hard and stuff like that, and when I can compare that to Deuteronomy 28, that's what gives me a sense to let me know it's a possibility that I am a Jew. Not saying I'm claiming, I'm just saying. When I think about things like that, then it kind of put me to thinking. You feel what I'm saying? It kind of put me to thinking. Because everything that happens, we have to understand it's not a coincidence that it happens. Everything that happens, it happens for a reason. Just like we have YouTube, we have Instagram, we have TikTok, we have Twitter, we have all these different social media sites to where we can make videos, we can record things and put them up and all that kind of stuff, and we can put information out here into the world. It's just like regular TV or whatever. But there's a reason for that. You see what I'm saying? So the Most High God allowed that to happen for a reason. You see what I'm saying? He allowed it to happen. It's a good thing. We can do that. But I want to go back to my first original question. I don't want to feel like I'm just talking in circles and just being stuck in one, like just in circles and repeating. But I do want to say this here. When you tell our people things like, when have you ever seen a white boy, so-called white boy, sitting at home living with his mother for years, for ever since he was born, basically? No car, no education, to where he had to depend upon that so-called white boy. It wasn't gonna be like that in the so-called white boy's community. Why? Because that so-called white man gonna make sure that white boy and that white girl he gonna make sure that his kids get a good education. But guess what? The reason that is happening because they are more able to benefit off the system because they ancestors, they great grandfather, they can go to their grandfathers and get things that they want. They own everything. Of course, when you control the world and you're at the top, yes, you will be able to give and you'll be able to do all these things. It's because you own it all. You see what I'm saying? When you own it, that's just the way it's going to be. You see what I'm saying? Everybody knows that. So don't be sitting up here trying to don't play with words and sit up here and just and shoot around the words and dance around the words like if well, Well, all that happens to all people. No, it does not. No, it does not. It doesn't happen to all people. Every nation of people is not at the bottom. You don't see Caucasian people at the bottom and the so-called black man is ruling and we getting along with each other. You don't see that in our community. It's beef with with our people, and it's a reason for that. There's a scripture in Isaiah chapter 13, I think it's 13 and 12, where it talks about Ephraim and Judah shall come is one stick, and God gonna bring them together because, like as the brother was saying on YouTube, he said, I like how he broke it down, is that Ephraim and Judah has beef with each other. Ephraim and Judah is the so-called Ephraim. It would be the Northern Kingdom, the so-called Puerto Ricans and Mexicans and the Costa Ricans and stuff like. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Costa Rica. I think it can be. No, I think Costa Rica like is Latin America, but the so-called Costa Ricans would be Zebulon and all of that. You see what I'm saying? So the Northern Kingdom, especially them, would be which is Ephraim, which is the so-called Puerto Ricans, and Judah, which is the Southern Kingdom, has beef with each other, meaning that we don't get along. We don't. We have this thing that we don't like each other. We try to, and all these things are the curses that come up on our people. But the solution is that what we gonna have to do is come back to the Most High God and start keeping His commandments, and He can get us out of this thing. But we got to learn how to have love and concern and care for each other. You know what I mean? Because we don't, but our people love the so-called white man more than that we love our own, and that's a curse. You see what I'm saying? When you pick up a book and you start studying the word of the Most High God and you get the word, see, that's what the enemy don't want you to do. He don't want you to understand it. He don't want you to come to a knowledge of yourself. You see what I'm saying? He don't want us to come to a knowledge of ourselves. So we have to get into the word of the Most High and study His word. And I'm not encouraging y'all not to doing nothing that I'm not doing, like praying and coming together, and let's help pray for each other and help lift each other up and stuff like that, things of that nature. Because we fight with the word of the Most High God. You see what I'm saying? We call things out as we see it in this world, man. You know what I'm saying? So when people say things like, they'll use John 3:16 to justify God so loved the world. They talking about the world. He's talking about everybody. He's talking about that wasn't speaking when John gave that prophecy to the. I think he was talking to Nathaniel, which were a disciple that God called, and all of the other ones, because they didn't truly understand. He said God so loved the world, and the problem is people is not going and they not searching out the context. To the context mean that who it was, who who they was talking to, because it was a certain audience that John was addressing, who the world was. And that's something that a lot of ministers not going to do. They're not going to read to you Isaiah 45 in verse 17, where that world, it was talking about Israel. They're not going to break down that there were multiple of worlds in the Bible. The whole world is not in poverty, right? When you think of poverty and poor, you think of so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American people that are in poverty. The so-called black man is in poverty, not the so-called white man. The so-called white man is not in poverty. No, as a whole, when I say as a whole, as a nation, they are not in poverty like we are. No, they're not in poverty like we are. The so-called white man is not in poverty like we are. None of them. No, they not in poverty. No, they are not in poverty. No, they're not in poverty at all. So-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American people, just like the so-called black man is the Negroes, is the one that was in slavery, not their people. They were not enslaved. If you look at Exodus, who were enslaved, who was under slavery to who? Pharaoh had the children of Israel in bondage for over 400 and some years, right? Esau, the Edomites, the Ammon, the Hittites, you never read in the Bible where it was talking about how the Ammonites the Israelites put the Ammonites and the Egyptians in slavery. You will never read that. So I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna talk to y'all some more about this stuff. I'll be back, man. I think this was a good topic. Hopefully when I go back and look at the video, it is a good topic. And I'm gonna see y'all later. All right, I'm out.